First one who's up is Mohammed Ahsan Ayaz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. All right, Mohammed, I will give the floor to you. I will see that you are sharing your screen now. That one is coming up. And if you want to unmute yourself, and then you can, then the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk here. And I'm pretty excited to share what I know with the community. So hey, everyone, I'm Mohammed Ahsan Ayaz, and I'm a senior software engineer at Klarna. I am also a Google developers expert in web and Angular. And today I'm going to be talking about portals, which is kind of a new API recently shared by Chrome team. And it's very promising when it comes to how we perceive user experience on the web. So let's jump into it right now. So first of all, I think we can all acknowledge that we really love web apps. We love building web apps. We love the tools that we use to build it, and we love our IDEs and whatnot. So if we talk about deadlines when building web apps, how do you feel about that? So for instance, you have some feature in progress that you're working on day and night, and you're pretty comfortable with that. And it probably looks like this at this point. And then the client says that you have to finish it like in 24 hours, and you have spent like a week or so. So what do you do in that case? Probably you finish it by something like this. So instead of deadlines, let's talk about the modern web. And I think this is a question that we have been asking ourselves for quite long, and what the APIs would look like, how we would browse. And if we look at the current state of the web right now, and if we talk about how it works on mobile, for instance, you have a mobile app or a web app that you're running on mobile, you perhaps click a link, and then what you do is that you wait, and then you wait more, and then you are still waiting. And this is specifically if you are on a low network condition, for instance, a low 2G. And for instance, if I'm opening LinkedIn or any website, it would start rendering, but then finally it becomes interactive. So it takes quite a while to be interactive for the user to jump in. And by the time the user is just like, meh, I don't know what's happening. So let's talk about if we can improve this whole scenario, and if we can make the web better. For instance, if we talk about Android, it's very fluent, and there's something called scenes in Android. And you can see that we click this clock or we tap on it, and it becomes the new page for us. And it's really seamless how it transitions from one page to another. But the question is, how do we do this on the web? Now, there's something that Chrome introduced, and that's what we are talking about. It's called portals. And if we talk about portals, how do we basically use that? So portals are right now behind a flag in Chrome and Chrome Canary, and you can easily enable that. And I'm going to show you how you do that. But if any browser doesn't support, let's say, portals, you can quickly check it via this. You can see if we have HTML portal element in window, and you could be using some other browser that doesn't support it, or you can be using a prior Chrome version, or maybe you don't have the flags enabled. So whatever the reason is, you can quickly check if the browser is compatible. And if you want to create portals, there are quite a few ways. So for instance, you can use the HTML portal element. It's very easy. You can see that it looks something like an iframe. You use the portal element, you provide it a source, and boom, you're done. If you want to create it using JavaScript, this is how it would look. You can create it by document.createElement portal, and then you can provide it a source. You can provide it some styles also. And then finally, you append the child or this portal that you created on body. And I'm showing this really good example that I'm going to show later as well. This small box is basically a portal. And once you're ready to do the transition, because portal is used to be used in different transitions from one page to another. It could be a single page application. It could be a multi-page application, or in fact, it could be multiple domains that are being switched. For instance, you are going from abc.com to def.org. So when you're ready to do the transition, you can use portal.activate. And if you're using Portal and if you are inspecting it, you will be able to see that you get this Portal HTML element. It has all the properties. You can see below that I have put some styles on that. So you can actually style how it looks, where it will be positioned, and what would happen when we actually activate. So to activate a portal, you use the portal.activate method, and then it becomes the top level view. So the difference between an iframe and a portal is that you basically have the iframe on your page, but you cannot actually navigate into it or make it the top level page. But with portals, you actually can do that. When you do portal activate, it becomes the new page. So you do portal activate, and then it becomes the new page for you. But the question is, what we have seen so far, is this a really good experience? We had a box being shown in a page, we click, it becomes the new page. But where is the seamlessness in this? Because for the user, it is still looks like a broken experience, or I won't say broken, but maybe a discrete experience. So when we talk about seamlessness, we probably imagine animations, and Portal actually has nothing to do with the animations. So for animations, there's something called BYOA, or build your own animations, and you can decide how the portal would look and what would happen when you are now you're ready to go into the portal or navigate to the new page. How would the transition look like? So the question is, how do we make it smooth? It's still discrete. So what you can do is, with this example that I shown, you show the box and then you start animating it. So for instance, it will expand a bit, and then it will take the whole screen for you, and then it will become the new page. Now, if you notice in the images, the first three images have the URL ahsanayaz.com/404, but this one has ahsanayaz.com. So it's a different URL. So now we switch from one page to another within the same domain, but it is not necessarily a single page application. This could be multiple HTML pages, but you can see that it is a seamless transition from one page to another by showing this really neat animation. Now, one thing that I always talk about when discussing Portal is that you animate first and then you activate. So this box will first animate, and how it would animate is based on you. So you will put the kind of logic in your first page that if this portal is clicked, then you do some fancy animation, and it could look something like this. This is what I've put in my example. So this will first animate, and you can see that I'm providing the style width 100%, style height 100%. Also, the transition is using some fancy animations as well. Now, once you have animated it, you can then activate it. So the way I've done it, and you can do it with your own logics or your own methods, but what I've done is that I actually see the transition end method on the portal that I created. So I see if I have transitioned or if I have kind of started the animation. And once the transition ends, I will see what kind of property is it right now in the event. So if I go back, you can see that I'm changing a lot of things. I'm changing the width, I'm changing the height, and I'm also giving different aspects to this. For instance, bottom, left, right, width, but I'm making sure that whatever I'm using and whichever item has the maximum amount of number, for instance, bottom right now has 0.6 seconds, while the other have 0.3 seconds. So I will look for this bottom field. For now, I have used width, but I can use bottom. And then once I see this property has finished transition, I can basically activate the portal. And that's how you can simply do that. But one of the problems that users think about navigating to a new page, for instance, you have your own collection of stores, for instance, and now you have a portal which takes the user to another store, which is a separate domain. Now the user has left your site, and you might have functionality associated with that user. So the user might not see it, but for your application, it's like, where did the user go? And how to get the user back on track if there is a whole experience bound to it. So in that case, we have something called adopt predecessor. And what it does is that from site A, you activate the portal and navigate to site B. And from site B, you can actually go to site A, but it won't be a back transition because it always moves forward and I'm going to show you how that actually works. So for instance, I'm going to show this example with two different domains. One is ahsanayaz.com, which is my website, and the other is awesomegithubprojects.firebase.com. So these are totally two separate domains hosted on different places. And I'm actually appending a portal inside ahsanayaz.com. So when I click on this awesome GitHub projects becomes the main page. And now it has transitioned to this. But if I have to go back to ahsanayaz.com, I can use the adopt predecessor from the event. So I can get that on awesome GitHub projects, and then I will append that as a portal, and then it will go back to ahsanayaz.com. And I'm not going to say back to ahsanayaz.com because the transition is always forward. It goes from ahsanayaz.com to awesome GitHub projects, and from awesome GitHub projects to ahsanayaz.com, but it's always a forward transition. There's no going back. And if we think about this seems like some kind of inception, that you're going from one place to another and then back to it, and then it can go on like this always. But it's kind of a hard concept to grasp. But if you see the examples, obviously my website is also on GitHub, and also this awesome GitHub projects is also on GitHub. So I can also share the links for you to have a peek at that. Now, we can also use portals in shape of modals, and this is perhaps one of the coolest use cases of portals, that you can show a totally separate domain inside a modal on your website. Now, this is the example that I'm going to show you. So I have some projects that I have built on GitHub, and then I'm actually embedding them as portals in my own website. So this whole page is actually ahsanayaz.com, but when I click on this goes to a new domain that you can see in this header. You can see that the whole domain, the URL changes, but you can see that it still looks the same. So how does it happen? First of all, we animate the portal element. Then we activate the portal element. So you can see that it goes up, and then we are activating the portal. Now, the fun part is when it goes to the new page, this one is actually the main page. This box that you see is actually on the second website, awesomegithubprojects.com. And what you see behind them is actually a portal of the first websites. So it's kind of wrapping around this concept of how we use portal. And then when we have to go back or go to the first website again, what we do is that you can see that it starts with awesome GitHub projects, but then it animates back to its original position. Now, this is where we are communicating between portals. From the first website, we animate from, let's say, position Y to a particular place. And then when we reach the second website, we are passing that value to the second page already, that this was the initial position that we have to move back if we are going back to the first website. So I'm going to show you the demo as well, and then it will make it more clear for you. Now, for going back, again, the concept is the same. You animate first, and then you activate the portal. So you can see that it starts on the second website in the header. It animates, and then by the time it activates, it is back to ahsanayaz.com. And as I said, that portals can communicate too among themselves. And how do you do that? For this, what I've done is that on ahsanayaz.com, we have this code. We create the portal. We do a post message to the portal with initial width or the Y position as well, that where it is starting from. And we are also providing the origin. So this origin is necessary to be provided because of any security vulnerabilities. So the next website knows where this portal is being activated from. And then on the next website, or the second awesome GitHub project.firebase.com, I'm listening for this message. So from the first website, we send this. From the second one, we get that message, and then we take out the initial width that was passed from the first website, and then we can do whatever we want with that. Now, if I go forward, this is one thing that I would like to share, and this is really important to understand, that portal is not something that you can use for everything. It also has its caveats. You have to be really careful when using it, and you have to consider the security vulnerabilities as well. And also one thing that you need to consider is you cannot have a lot of portals in your page, because what it does is that when you create a portal, it loads the second website completely in that portal. So if you have, let's say, 1,000 list items, and for all of those you have portals in there, when the user opens your website, it will start loading content for those 1,000 websites. If they're different, that's going to be a bigger problem. But if they're same, there might be some caching that might help it. But again, it's not a really good idea to put a lot of portals in your website, but you can put a single portal and then dynamically change its source and load it and then activate it, and then you can optimize it as you want. Now, before going to questions, I'm just going to show you a demo. So this is my website. And if I try to use this on a normal Chrome browser, let me show you. So if I go here, and if I show you this one, so this is with the flags disabled. So you can see that it just says this projects. And if I click this, it will basically take me to awesome GitHub projects, firebase.com. And these are the projects as list items. But if I go to Chrome Canary with the flag enabled, you can see that if I scroll down, you see all of these portals right here. And these are all different items that I have configured with the other app as well. Now, I can click on any item, and you can see that it goes up to this position. And now we are on the second website. And if I click back, you can see that it navigates back to its original position. So I'm actually communicating from the first site what is the initial position that I'm animating from. And in the next website, I'm actually going back to that position before it goes back to the first page. So for instance, for this one, it will navigate to here. It will go back to its position. From here, you can see it activates, goes back to its position. So this is how you can provide a really neat UI. And the user might not even know that they are different domains, or you can do a lot of things with this technique. Now, before we wrap up, I would actually like to have questions, the most interesting part.
All right, let me
go back to the screen.
Yes, all right. You can hear me properly, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I've got one question up here. What is this portal stuff? Is this supported for every browser or just Chrome? Or can you tell me about something about that?
Yes, so it is actually introduced by the Chrome team. So this is only available for Chrome now, but there is a hope that this might be later on adopted by other browsers as well.
Okay, and what do you think is the biggest concern or the biggest mistake that people make when using portals? Is that loading the whole page, as you described, into a portal, or?
Yes. So for instance, the elements that you see here, there are a lot of portals here, like 3, 4, 5, how many items there are. So if you put a lot of portals with different URLs in a single page, if a user is on a slow network or is using data, this will cost a lot to the user because it will start loading all of the content and you cannot stop it. So one tip would be using only one portal and kind of managing it dynamically with the source and then appending on the body and yeah, optimizing it. And the other mistake that usually happens with portals is that, yeah, I think, yeah, that's probably the only idea that I can show.
How does this work when you do previous and next on navigation buttons? Does that make the portal and the animation go up again? Or can you tell me something about that?
Yes. So for instance, if I'm going back here, you can see that you can actually navigate to back and forth with the portal. So this actually works pretty well when you are using history button. So every time you go to portal, it will push to your history and then you can navigate back and forth.
Okay, cool. How much does this whole portal thing impact performance?
As I said, if it's quite similar to how you're using iframes. So all the concerns that you might have for that also applies to portals. For instance, could there be any security flaws when using iframes or portals? So all of that actually applies to portals as well. And also, again, if you're using a lot of iframes, it's also bad. If you're using a lot of portals element, it's also bad. So you could probably show some images in the beginning and then just use one portal to do all the magic.
All right. Sounds legit. Sounds interesting. I have never tried it, to be honest, but I'm not a front end engineer, so that's because of it. So far, that are the questions I have for now. We have a few minutes left, and I know you have at least one slide, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes.
I will put the screen back up. Let's go.
Awesome. So yeah, I think before we it's just one silly slide, but yeah, if we go from here learning something, if I try to go back, yes. Oops. Now let's see. So yeah, this is one tip that I always give to my viewers. If this plays, nope, it doesn't for some reason. Oh, it plays. So yeah, so the tip is never take your dog to snowboarding, because yeah, that's what you might end it. So I would say thank you for having me. This was a really good thing for me, being at home. So I really loved it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed, for being here. Next up will be Jorge, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I already see him backstage, but we have a few minutes left. So I want to thank Mohammed for this talk. As I assume this will all be recorded and will be placed on the website afterwards, so we can look it back. We can look it back up later. One final question, Mohammed: do you publish the slides afterwards?
Yes, for sure, I will.
Oh, amazing. So I think the best thing is to follow Mohammed on Twitter or whatever, and make sure that you find the slides over there. Thank you so much, and thank you for kicking this day off. It's going to be a long day, but you started it strongly, so thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.